Hello everyone and welcome to Guarda Cryptocurrency Awareness Project. In this series, we are going to talk about the projects that we support, their ideas and outlooks, their work, and of course their future. We believe that education is an essential part of the community work. So today is an exciting day for us as we have a chance to talk with Jimmy, representing Bitcoin Satoshi Vision here. Guarda Wallet has supported BSV from the very beginning in November 2018. So now, less than half a year after, it is exciting for us to have this interview. As we are through with the short introduction, I believe that we can start our interview. Hope you enjoy watching it.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great, yeah. Could you tell us more about yourself and your position? You also have a really memorable Twitter name at Jimmy Wynn Media. What does this say about you?
So I hold a number of roles. I have worked with nChain and Dr. Craig S. Wright, our chief scientist, for a number of years. In addition, I'm now founding president of the Bitcoin Association, which is the leading industry group for business in Bitcoin. We are committed and dedicated to advancing business with Bitcoin SV in particular. And I also am an advisor to a number of other companies as well. As for my Twitter handle, I'm glad you noticed my Twitter name at Jimmy Wynn Media. It is a play on my last name a number of years ago when I started doing a lot more motivational speaking and media and public appearances. Before I got into the crypto world, I developed a brand called Jimmy Wynn. And that's a play on my last name, Nguyen, which is Vietnamese and hard for English speakers to pronounce. And in America, a lot of people try to pronounce the name like Nguyen or Win. And when I was in college, I used to compete in speech and debate across the country, and I used to win a lot. And it became kind of this nickname I got in the competitive speech and debate circle, which was Jimmy Wynn. And so years later, when I thought about what I wanted to stand for, it was about really helping to empower people to believe that they could win in life by being different, by standing out and embracing everything that was unique about them as opposed to being the same. So my tagline became, why fit in, stand out and win. So I like to say it's a win if you follow me on Twitter.
Love it. Right. So let's dig into the past a little bit. Well, we know a bit about your background, but what brings you to the cryptocurrency scene and to BSV in particular?
So I got into cryptocurrency, as I say, because it found me rather than I went and sought out Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I was a digital technology and IP lawyer in the United States for about 21 years. A long time, had a whole great career in it. I was a lawyer and then a partner in major US law firms. I represented big multinational corporates, startups, a whole range of companies, all kind of the blue chip companies in the United States, from major technology companies like Amazon and Microsoft to major motion picture studios and entertainment companies. As a technology lawyer, I always had to be looking at learning what was next coming in the technology field. I started my career right at the birth of the internet, sort of worked in that first big internet boom, and I always had to pay attention to the next technology wave. So I started learning about Bitcoin and virtual currency after it emerged onto the scene, paid some attention to it, had some clients that dealt with Bitcoin and virtual currency, either from online gaming or the fintech areas. So I always had to learn something about it. And then over the course of time, one of my client groups ended up starting the business that became nChain. Needed someone to play a role in it. I was helping from behind the scenes. And when Dr. Wright got moved to London from Australia and the nChain business started, I decided to take a leap of faith, leave my long-standing, very comfortable law firm partner life, and dive into the world of Bitcoin. So I've learned a lot about it in the period of time I worked in it. And the reason I joined was an interest in helping build the next major technology leap of our lifetime. I saw that from the 1990s and the internet, and this was an amazing opportunity to not work for just any cryptocurrency or Bitcoin business, but work with Craig Wright and an amazing team to fulfill a really powerful vision for Bitcoin. And that's how I ended up with Bitcoin SV. You know, we didn't start out supporting Bitcoin SV because it didn't exist when nChain was first beginning. We were supporting fundamentally what's Bitcoin. Its original vision expressed by the Satoshi white paper, expressed by the early Satoshi protocol and software design. Unfortunately, over the history of Bitcoin, its 10 years, the true Satoshi vision has never really been allowed to flourish. The developer groups who took control of the major Bitcoin projects, first Bitcoin Core and then Bitcoin Cash, have veered away from the original design of a massively scaled on-chain environment with big blocks, making it a true electronic cash system that's fast and cheap, and an enterprise blockchain that's capable of using all of the technical elements that were birthed into the Bitcoin original design, but never allowed to fully work without restriction, without limits. And so that's why Bitcoin SV emerged. It came through the contentious hard fork last November of the Bitcoin Cash network. We fought to preserve and defend the original Bitcoin, no matter what it was called. It ended up resulting in us having Bitcoin SV emerge as its own permanent chain and token. And so we fight for and build upon that. What it was called, how it came to be, is not as important as just understanding our mission has always, will always be about preserving, defending, and allowing to grow Bitcoin in its original design, just the way it was born to be.
Wonderful. Can you explain the core values of Bitcoin SV really shortly in like 10 words?
Sure. Bitcoin SV, the original Bitcoin. That's it. We want the original Bitcoin design. A stable protocol, massive scaling, secure, instant, safe transactions.
Wonderful. Okay. So Bitcoin SV is called the better version of Bitcoin. Okay. When do you think the Bitcoin development course made a wrong turn?
Well, Bitcoin Core made a number of wrong turns. The first major veer away from Bitcoin's design was keeping the block size capped at 1 megabyte in size. That was always supposed to be a temporary limitation as the Bitcoin network grew in its early days. But if you read the early Satoshi writings, it was very clear that Satoshi believed the Bitcoin network was meant to massively scale early on. In early writings, I think around 2010, Satoshi was already predicting that Bitcoin at that point could scale to be faster than the Visa payment network. At that point, using hardware of 2009, 2010 years, not even what we have today, which is much more improved. But the Bitcoin Core development team chose a different path. They didn't believe in that design of Bitcoin. They believed that the blocks had to be kept small, and instead of doing larger volumes, faster payment transactions on chain, of moving things off the chain and attempting these layer 2 solutions such as the Lightning Network. That was a significant deviation from Bitcoin's original design. It was not trusting in the original design and saying, we're just going to do something else. In our view, to create a proprietary commercial system on the Lightning Network where someone else is getting paid. That decreases the security and economic incentive model that is Bitcoin's true genius. Because Bitcoin at its core, its genius is not technology in nature. It combines existing technologies from before, but in a way that creates a very carefully balanced economic system. And it solves the question of how do you incentivize people, in this case miners, to maintain a ledger and provide the computing power for a network where there's no one person in charge and no one person getting paid for it. And the solution to that was this economic model that rewards miners with block rewards as well as transaction fees for providing their computing power to secure the network. And if that economic incentive gets moved away from miners and gets moved to something else like the Lightning Network, that disrupts the entire economic genius that is Bitcoin's true gift to the world. The system doesn't work as well or work at all if you do that. So that was Bitcoin Core's first major deviation, and the second major deviation was adding segregated witness. That's what ultimately led to the split off of Bitcoin Cash in 2017, because once they added segregated witness, which was an attempt to say, fine, we'll keep the blocks at 1 megabyte, but we'll try to increase the capacity that you can fit 4 megabytes worth of transactions in if we essentially cut off, segregate the signature or witness data so it's stored in a different way in the block, and that saves space. That was an attempt to try and increase block capacity while keeping the block small, but that fundamentally changed what a Bitcoin was on Bitcoin Core, because the white paper defines a coin very clearly as a chain of digital signatures that is critical to the security model of Bitcoin. But with Bitcoin Core, with segregated witness, you cut off the digital signature from the transaction, how it's stored in the block. And you have forever changed what is a Bitcoin to, frankly, a SegWit It's no longer Bitcoin a Bitcoin Core. So those are the two big things that Bitcoin Core did that I think veered away from Bitcoin's original vision, led to the birth of Bitcoin Cash, and then Bitcoin Cash's lead development team started veering away last year as well from Bitcoin's original design, adding all kinds of other changes and things that weren't part of the Satoshi vision. And that's why we decided to take a stand and fight and make sure the original Bitcoin vision got preserved, because yet another developer group was deciding we're going to experiment on Bitcoin, and we just had enough. No more experimenting with the Bitcoin design.
Very good. And what is the ultimate goal of BSV, and what role do you play in achieving this goal?
The ultimate goal of Bitcoin SV is to restore the original Satoshi protocol, version 0.1 that was originally released by Satoshi, because we believe that has everything inside of it that is needed for Bitcoin to grow into a powerful blockchain. Then we want to support it with massive scaling, getting the blockchain to really big blocks. Right now, we have a default block cap of 128 megabytes in size. Our node team has already been doing testing showing you can have sustained 64 megabyte, 100 megabyte blocks over sustained 24-hour periods. We want to later this year lift the block cap to 512 megabytes. Next year, get to 1 to 2 gigabytes and work towards a network that has terabyte size, 1 million megabyte size blocks, so that Bitcoin becomes not just a payment system, but the global data ledger of the future on which all big enterprises can operate data transactions. That's the ultimate vision. To get there, we need a stable protocol, massive scaling, and work on security. So my role is in several respects. So the Bitcoin SV node team, which is a development team that works on what's called the reference implementation for Bitcoin SV, is housed at Nchain. The project is actually owned by the Bitcoin Association, of which I'm the founding president, and I have, for the last couple of years, led Nchain as its CEO. I'm focusing more time now on these industry-wide initiatives now that we have Bitcoin SV in the world. And more of my time is getting dedicated to helping the whole ecosystem grow in leading the Bitcoin Association and the industry interactions. So I still help lead strategically the Bitcoin SV node team. We work with them on their scaling initiatives and their development work. As some people call me, I'm the Bitcoin SV global advocate now, spending a lot of my time educating the world about Bitcoin SV, doing media, talking and communicating with government agencies to help them understand what we believe are responsible policies that should be adopted to encourage effective, responsible use of Bitcoin in particular. So I play a lot of roles, but all with one mission: help Bitcoin SV achieve the true Satoshi vision.
Awesome. So where did Bitcoin SV come from? How did the original idea spark? What was formed at first to make this happen? Are there some facts of the creation that the public doesn't know?
So people know of Bitcoin SV as something that forked off from the Bitcoin Cash chain last November in 2018 with the network upgrade and hard fork and hash war that caught a lot of media attention last November. But I think of it differently. Bitcoin SV really dates back to the Genesis block from January 2009. It really is the original Bitcoin chain that started, went forward with Bitcoin Core, they deviated, Bitcoin Cash emerged, and continued what we thought for a time was the true Bitcoin path. They veered away. In our view, it was Bitcoin Cash that forked away from Bitcoin, not Bitcoin SV that forked away. It was Bitcoin SV that preserved the original chain and design of Bitcoin that starts all the way back in 2009. And so while Bitcoin SV has its own separate name and ticker symbol, BSV, only emerged last November, if you look at it more honestly, it really began with the Genesis block in 2009, and we are the ones who fought to preserve that continuance. So the SV name comes simply from the acronym Satoshi Vision. It is designed to reflect this is the true original vision from Satoshi Nakamoto for Bitcoin, if you believed in Bitcoin when you first read that white paper and first heard about Bitcoin and got excited about it, then you believe in Bitcoin SV. And so we first began Bitcoin SV not as its own chain or own token. It began as a competing software implementation of Bitcoin Cash because we were working with the other Bitcoin Cash developer groups, in particular the lead group Bitcoin ABC, over the past year and a half concerning the technical future and roadmap of Bitcoin Cash. At some point last year, it became clear there was severe disagreements between us and the Bitcoin ABC camp. N-Chain, as well as our partners at CoinGeek, had a lot of hash on the Bitcoin Cash network, a significant amount, and we went to the Bitcoin ABC development groups and the other groups and basically said we just disagree with some of the changes you're making and we represent a lot of the hash. Please listen to us. To be blunt, we essentially felt ignored, and it became clear that they did not think miners with significant hash should really get the say in what happens with the technical roadmap. That's not what the Satoshi white paper outlines. It outlines miners with their hash power as the ones to decide disagreements among rule sets by voting with hash power. And so therefore we created an alternate choice for miners. You could follow Bitcoin ABC's path, or we created Bitcoin SV as another software implementation and said miners choose this path for Bitcoin Cash. So it started as a competing software implementation, but the result of that hash war was us deciding to have it continue as its own chain and token, especially after Bitcoin ABC demonstrated during the hash war that they proved us right. They were willing to make significant, serious changes to the Bitcoin Cash protocol during the hash war, which upset a lot of other people, not just us, and demonstrated everything we were saying. They wanted to treat Bitcoin Cash as an experimental playground for developers who would keep coming in saying we want to change not just the transaction ordering or adding this opcode, but we'll add this checkpoint, we'll add this 10-block reorganization defense without consulting the other developer groups, honestly, on some of those things. And that's really disturbing, right? Because that's not the way Bitcoin was meant to work. And what it demonstrated to us is they didn't care about making Bitcoin Cash Bitcoin. They're going to turn it into some other coin, which is fine. Go ahead, go off on your own, turn it into some other coin. We're here to preserve and fight for what Bitcoin is in its original vision. That's how we got here. That's why Bitcoin SV emerged as its own chain and token, and why we're fighting so hard, because we are the only Bitcoin project now that preserves and wants to fulfill the original Satoshi vision.
Excellent. You have a team that's the core of your projects. What is the BSV team like? And were they all involved with cryptocurrencies before? Or they come from other places?
I think we have, for Bitcoin SV and its node development team, the best team in the industry. Dr. Wright says this as well about N-Chain. But clearly, we're led from a visionary perspective by Craig Wright. He, for all of the questions and criticism of him, he's been very consistent and clear. He, unlike other people, aren't out there advocating or fighting for trying to build multiple cryptocurrencies. He wants one. He wants Bitcoin, whatever you call it, the vision of Bitcoin that was laid out by Satoshi. So he, of course, is a critical member of our team and one of our true ambassadors. From a development perspective, we're led by two people, Daniel Connolly and Steve Shatters. Daniel Connolly is the lead developer of the Bitcoin SV node team, and Steve Shatters is the technical director. Both have a history in Bitcoin. Steve Shatters wrote the first mining pool software for Bitcoin many years ago that people don't really know about. And he also helped develop Bitcoin J, the Java implementation for Bitcoin. Daniel Connolly was also involved with Bitcoin J. He worked for the United Nations for many, many years in IT, and also did some side work in Bitcoin. So they were always more behind the scenes kind of people. But with the emergence of Bitcoin SV, they've taken very nicely sort of the mantle of realizing I have to step up and really start using their own voices and experience to bring to bear. So they are people with some of the best experience in Bitcoin that we've seen. There are, of course, many others as well. But they lead a team at N-Chain and some independent people we work with around the world to bring Bitcoin SV to life. That includes the node development to restore the software to the point it gets to the original Satoshi protocol. It includes scaling work. So they are running a Bitcoin SV scaling test network now to test bigger blocks, faster transaction and block propagation as the blocks get bigger, working on software solutions to make it easier for nodes, particularly the mining nodes, to deal with bigger blocks. Because we're not silly. We know you don't just lift the block cap and all of a sudden, boom, you get a faster, bigger network. We know that technical solutions have to still be developed to help block and transaction propagation be faster, more efficient as the blocks get bigger. So they are the team working with others around the world, and they are a delight to work with. Solid, intelligent people who care about a mission. They're here. Steve Shatter's moved from Australia to London, not because he just wanted a job. He came for a mission. He believed in Bitcoin. He wants Bitcoin to succeed. And we have a lot of those people. For them, this is not just a job. This is a belief in a journey to Satoshi Vision.
Awesome team, love it. So let's break the ice a little bit, Jimmy. What's the funniest work-related story you can remember?
What's the funniest work-related story I can remember? Well, I have so many, especially because I spend so much of my life traveling the world with Craig Wright. That's entertainment in and of itself. You should sit in the car and plane with him for hours on end. But one of the funniest things that happened was also touching. So wherever we go, Craig will, especially at big Bitcoin and blockchain events, he gets practically assaulted by people wanting a photograph, or they want a selfie, or sometimes even an autograph, or they just want to meet him or say hi to him, because obviously he's super well known in the Bitcoin world. So I always say it's like I'm managing the Kim Kardashian of Bitcoin, right? Where I go everywhere and we get like throngs of people. And the one funny incident happened in Hong Kong last year at an event where we came back from lunch. I was going to the AV booth at the end of the back of the conference ballroom just to check on slides for our presentations. And while we were back there, because in the beginning we were sitting way up at the front of the room, kind of the VIP section, so people wouldn't come talk to us. But we came back from lunch, we were in the back of the room, and literally got mobbed by like dozens and dozens of people just coming, wanting to take a picture with Craig, to the point where it was getting uncomfortable. And I was like, where's Kim Kardashian's bodyguard when I need her? And then a woman all of a sudden brought up a baby. This cute little baby. Woman came in with a baby, and you could see Craig kind of go, baby, right? And what am I gonna do with this baby? And then the woman wanted him to take a picture with the baby, and I was waiting for her to say, like, rub the baby's belly for good luck and stuff. So, but it was actually really kind of funny and touching at the same time, because there's Craig Wright kind of going, okay, I'm holding a baby, I don't know what to do with the baby. This woman taking a picture and was just so happy. You should have seen the excitement in her eyes that her baby got a picture and got touched by Craig Wright, just a tap on the head, because that baby is now going to have Satoshi fortune.
Love that story. Right, back to the serious matters of crypto development. Can you enlighten us on BSV development from November last year, and what's changed from back then?
Sure. So it's now late February. The BSV chain and node emerged last November, so barely 3 months ago, but it seems like so much has happened. So things that have happened in the last 3 months are there have been big blocks mined on the Bitcoin SV blockchain. On Christmas Day, Mempool, which is a mining pool out of China that mines Bitcoin SV. On Christmas Day of 2018, they mined a 65 megabyte block, I believe, which was the largest at the time, a world record on a public blockchain. And then on January 3rd of 2019, which was the 10-year anniversary of the Genesis block, the very beginning of the Bitcoin blockchain, Mempool mined a 103 megabyte block, the world's largest ever, first to cross over the 100 megabyte threshold, so that was exciting to see. From a development perspective, the Node team just a couple of weeks ago released a updated version of the Bitcoin SV Node software. It includes a number of technical feature additions and solutions that were used in recent scaling test network results. As I mentioned earlier, our team has started a Bitcoin SV scaling test network on which they're testing bigger blocks and propagation, and they demonstrated recently not just one-off blocks that could be mined, but sustained 24-hour period of 64 megabyte blocks easily and getting up to 100 megabyte blocks. A little bit more difficulty, but on a sustained basis. To achieve that, they had implemented some technical solutions into software, and those got incorporated into the latest update of the Bitcoin SV node, which is now publicly available. We're hoping more companies that are running nodes out there use this, because over time we want to demonstrate those tests on the live net too, not just on the test net. So expect some more technical solutions from the SV node team on that, more scaling test work. I know they are testing even bigger blocks on the scaling test network. And at some point in the next few months, we're hoping to do a big public test to show with stress tests that big blocks can be done efficiently, effectively on the live net. And they're working on some other exciting things as well. They recently held a wallet workshop that was organized by the Bitcoin Association. It was in London, hosted by nChain and sponsored by CoinGeek, where they brought together representatives from key Bitcoin SV wallets around the world to start talking about the things that are important to build an ecosystem. How do we create standards and interoperability to make it easier for users, right? We want that user experience to be really, really easy. And I think this is something that really differentiates us from other blockchain projects. For Bitcoin to grow to massive global adoption, it's gotta be easy. My mother's got to be able to use it. Someone's grandmother's got to be able to use it. And it also means if I've got coins on one wallet and I want to send it to a friend who's got a different wallet, that's got to be easy too, right? And yes, there are easy ways to do that now, but it can be better and easier. So our development team convened this wallet workshop. They had a great week here. I understand that there's some standards being developed that will be published and I think adopted in the coming weeks, and there's been a lot of excitement that was born out of that, and it's led to a lot of discussions about how collectively all of these companies in the ecosystem can collaborate to improve development for the benefit of all. And so that's just some of what's happening in Bitcoin SV development.
Love it. We should watch your video if they want to know. Right. So the hard fork. What was the environment like for the BSV team at the moment of the hash war?
What was the environment like at the moment of the hash war for the BSV team? Well, it was an exciting time, a dramatic time, and a time I never want to ever relive again. May there never, ever be another chain split or hash war over Bitcoin. Ever again. I say that for real. I don't think there will be. I think this was important to take a stand and send a message, and we did. I was at the nChain office here in London for it. I had flown back to my home in LA at the time, then came back just for it. I mean, we were all very tired. We had all been doing a lot of work getting ready for this. There was a lot of both development and coding work, prep work from a media and strategy perspective. So we were all pulling long hours, late nights. This is not a fun thing to do, but I think there was a lot of excitement in seeing how the system would play out, whether Nakamoto consensus would really work, what would happen, during this whole process. So we were excited. I think it also really galvanized the entire nChain office. I actually even had a picture taken of the entire office right before the hard fork and hash war began. And there was a sense of amazing unity. I think as a business for nChain, it really solidified for everyone why we're here, why are we fighting this. Steve Shatters, their lead developer there at nChain, gathered the office at one point to explain, this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is why we're fighting this. So from that perspective, as much as everyone was really tired and our development teams were working nonstop to get ready, I think the thing I was most proud to see is how it really brought people together. But yeah, it was exciting, tiring, frustrating, aggravating, all at the same time. We also knew how the other side was going to fight, so their burst of hash was predictable to us, and then the public reaction to it was interesting to watch. I'll say that politely. So it was definitely a historic moment in time. I think it'll hopefully go down in Bitcoin history, but hopefully will be the last time that ever happens.
Very good. So what's the best thing, Jimmy, about working in BSV at the moment?
The best thing about working in the Bitcoin SV ecosystem at the moment is just the level of excitement that's happening right now for the opportunity to build without conflict and without restrictions. So one of the things that happened immediately after the hash war was concluded is we saw more and more companies and ventures start saying, we choose SV, right? Start moving over to the SV blockchain. People we don't even know, like Unwriter, the mysterious Bitcoin developer, just writing this very dramatic blog post explaining why Unwriter is now building only on Bitcoin SV because Unwriter believes that is Bitcoin. So we're seeing a lot more of that with restrictions now lifted on Bitcoin SV, such as the data size limit in the op return field, which Steve Shatters figured a way to lift without doing a consensus protocol change and have miners just set what they want. I think the nChain and CoinGeek mining groups are setting it to 100 kilobytes, but others can set it differently. That has led to this explosion of all kinds of cool applications and projects experimenting with what you could do with embedding larger metadata in a Bitcoin transaction. So there's been image files embedded, and Unwriter just yesterday released Bitstagram, basically Instagram on Bitcoin. Someone's embedded video files, a music file, a digital clock, a chess game. Someone's embedding actual old Nintendo games in the Bitcoin SV blockchain. Someone's created bitcoinfiles.org, kind of like a Dropbox service and application on Bitcoin SV, where you can pay with Bitcoin SV micropayments to store images, content, Word documents, whatever. And all of those things demonstrate that if you just release the restrictions that were imposed on Bitcoin by the core developers and others in the past, keep a protocol stable, you unleash all this creativity. We can't create everything at nChain, right? And nor should we. We don't want to, but we can contribute to providing a powerful technology platform that others can build on, just like the internet protocol has remained stable and has supported growth over these years and led to all these wonderful applications we now use. That's what's happening on Bitcoin SV, and I see it on the Twitter sphere. I see it from the people I talk to. I heard about it from the Wallet Workshop. Everyone's just so excited to get the chance to build with like all the conflict out of the way. Like there's not that there won't be some disagreements here or there, but fundamentally people in the BSV camp all agree on the path. Original Bitcoin protocol, keep it stable. The Bitcoin design has everything it needs in its inherent Satoshi opcodes to allow people to do all kinds of amazing things, and they can build on top of it in script. And everyone agrees that. Everyone agrees on the massive scaling plan, roadmap. They said, yes, scale big now, we need it. And to have an environment where everyone agrees on the fundamentals and everyone is supporting each other to just build the coolest things and unleash the power of Bitcoin that has been locked down for too long. That's the most exciting thing.
Very good. What are some of the biggest short-term goals for BSV right now? And with that, we mean in the next 6 months.
Yeah. The biggest short-term goals for Bitcoin SV over the next 6 months is scaling. We know we need to demonstrate the scaling roadmap that we have talked about. And it's important, not just because we like big blocks, because as you know, I like big blocks and I cannot lie, but it's for miner profitability and to ensure the blockchain remains secure. There will be a block reward halving again next year in the year 2020, where every few years, as you know, the reward miners get for mining a block gets cut in half. Right now, it's 12.5 coins. Sometime next year, it'll go down to 6.25 coins and then get cut in half again every several few years after that. So miners, in order to stay profitable, need to make up some of that lost value in block reward in something else. And that something else are the transaction fees they get for all the individual transactions they get included in the block they mine. So to make that up, they need to get lots more of individual transaction fees. And because we want the transaction fees to remain small to make it cheap to use the network, that means there needs to be more and more and more larger volumes of transactions, which means the blocks need to get bigger to support not just payment transactions, but a whole litany of other things. Data transactions, smart contract, token transactions, Internet of Things, communications management that happens on the blockchain, you name it. And so to support that, we need to demonstrate the ability of the Bitcoin SV blockchain to sustain bigger blocks, bigger throughput capacity, much higher volumes of transactions, to getting well past 512 megabyte cap blocks, right? Getting to gigabyte size range. So for the next 6 months, our key is to demonstrate scaling on both the scaling test network as well as on the live network, to demonstrate through stress tests the ability for the network to sustain those bigger blocks, to come up with the software tools and solutions to make that more viable, faster, easier to propagate with blocks and transactions, and to work towards convincing the big companies of the world to look at BSV as the blockchain to use because it can scale bigger. That's the struggle other blockchains have had, such as Ethereum, the ability to scale and maintain their functionality with bigger volumes of transactions. We are the only blockchain project that has the plan and the commitment to scale to the levels that we think are necessary to achieve a global public ledger.
Very good. Jimmy, what are your thoughts on crypto winter?
Yeah.
What is coming? What do we have yet to face? And did this have anything to do with BSV changing its course?
Yeah. So crypto winter. Well, first of all, I don't like winter. I grew up in Los Angeles, so I like it sunny and warm. So I like crypto summer. I think everyone likes crypto summer because that means everyone's value in their portfolios of cryptocurrency is higher. So I don't necessarily like crypto winter, but I think it's necessary. There became far too many tokens and altcoins. In our view, there really should only be one. It should be Bitcoin. Everything all of the other coins and blockchain projects claim they can do can be done on Bitcoin if you would have just unleashed the power inherent in its core design that was restricted and locked down. We are now going to lift it and create Bitcoin with no limits. So I think that will eventually weed out other coins. That's happening because of crypto winter. The weaker coins are either getting delisted, maybe dying off because no one wants to mine them anymore, especially as the value's gone down. And so I think it's a good thing from the perspective that it's going to weed out what became a rash of far too many coins, far too many ICOs, far too many scams, some of them, right? Trying to get people's money so that the founders could make money and quickly exit. I think that it's also valuable in resetting expectations. For cryptocurrency, in particular Bitcoin, to have real value, it needs to have real utility. For that market price to mean something, and for it to be less volatile than it's been over the last couple of years, where we've seen these sharp rises and sharp decreases. People don't trust cryptocurrency because of that. They'll trust it more if the value is more stable. For it to be stable, it means there has to be some real meaningful usage and value to it. That's why on the SV side, we are so focused on establishing a real ecosystem of real usage on a daily basis by businesses and consumers. And that will mean its value will grow more gradually over time, but be sustainable. So that's why I don't worry so much about short-term value. I'm worried about building long-term utility. In the meantime, crypto winter will weed out weaker projects and weaker coins. I want it to come back because I want everyone to be happy, but I think it's a necessary winter we're living through. I think the Bitcoin hash war that was fought between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV was not the sole cause of it. Some people like to say that it was, but if you look at the trend, the prices were declining well before the hash war. Certainly the move by the Bitcoin ABC proponents to move a lot of hash from Bitcoin Core over to Bitcoin Cash to fight the hash war against us certainly precipitated a big drop in the BTC price. And because the other coins were pegged against that as a base pair, that caused a drop in other coins. I think that startled people. But in some ways, I look at this as a necessary step to resetting realistic expectations and focusing people's attention on what does cryptocurrency value really mean. We shouldn't be looking at this as a gambling speculation. Here's how I become the next lotto millionaire because I just bought this coin. It's causing people to invest like they would in the stock market. I'm investing in some stock of a company because I believe in that company's fundamentals and forcing people to actually study the fundamentals. And at Bitcoin SV, we are fully focused on creating those fundamentals with Bitcoin.
Love that. Love it. Great. What are the biggest achievements of the BSV team at the moment, and what are you the most proud of?
The biggest achievements of the Bitcoin SV team are yet to come, honestly. You know, we're the separate chain is new, and I'm not going to sit here and claim that we've accomplished all these amazing things. We know we have a ton more work to do. So I'm not going to sit here and claim there's been some amazing accomplishment. I think I am proud of the fact that we all collectively, and for this I really have to thank Calvin Ayre, CoinGeek founder, because he really stood up financially in particular and was willing to take the financial risk of fighting for Bitcoin's original vision. So I'm really proud that there were a group of people that were willing to stand up and fight for Bitcoin's original vision. Calvin Ayre, Craig Wright in particular, clearly as very visible people. But people like I mentioned, our development team, Steve Shatters, Daniel Connolly, and people who work with us, who were willing to fight when it wasn't popular, when it's easy to call us names, when it's easy to misunderstand what we were trying to do. But when you sit back and people are realizing now, oh my gosh, those were the people who preserved the original Bitcoin. And if we had not done that when Bitcoin ABC forked away with their changes, the original Bitcoin design would not exist anymore had we not stopped and stood our ground and created Bitcoin SV as a separate implementation and fought. So that's the thing I'm most proud of that, I got to work with a team of people that believed in something so much that they were willing to put their reputations, their names, their money, and everything on the line for it. Going forward, we have a ton of work to do to validate the trust that a lot of the community has put in us to create this as the great new Bitcoin ecosystem. So I'm looking forward to that. But sitting here today, I'm most proud of the fact that a group of us were to come together to say, hey, we're going to fight for Bitcoin.
Awesome. And we're sure, Jimmy, that you use crypto wallets for your assets.
I do.
What kind of wallets do you use? How do you choose them? Based on what criteria?
So since I work in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency field, I've had to both use wallets just for my own personal use, but also just to learn, right, and experiment with seeing what features work or not. Also, I help screen investments from companies that are in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and a lot of them are wallet companies. So I get to see a lot of wallets and compare features. So personally, I've used several. Right now, I do use Guarda, right? So thanks to Guarda for adding Bitcoin SV support. So I actually do hold Bitcoin SV on Guarda Wallet and have used it. It's got a nice web interface. I have used Edge Wallet. I tried that out to split coins after the Bitcoin SV BCH ABC split because they provided a neat tool for doing that. Of course, there's Electrum SV and of course, I have to mention Handcash and Centbee, two former BCH-focused wallets that moved immediately to Bitcoin SV and now only support Bitcoin SV. So nChains, through its investment arm, nChain Reaction, has invested in both of those. So I'm quite familiar with both of them and their business plans. We invested in them because they're great, easy to use. Easy, that's important. Easy to use wallets. Centbee with very social features where users are pulled up through your contacts in your phone and you can send money to someone in Bitcoin through a phone contact essentially. Handcash because of its handle system. So you pick a user handle and I can send you a Bitcoin through a user handle, and also they use NFC technology. Those I think are the two best Bitcoin wallets on the mobile spectrum out in the marketplace. So I use both of those as well. And so I've tried a variety of things. On the hardware side, I've tried, Trezor Wallet, but they unfortunately don't support Bitcoin SV right now. And so, makes it hard for me to continue using them. But I've tried a mix of them and have seen benefits and disadvantages of a number.
Very good. So this next question, also the last, we want to talk to you about the matter of scalability.
Yes.
Very hot topic in crypto world. The only thing is we've not seen anybody truly achieve it. Do you think the changing the block size is the ultimate solution to the problem of scalability? And was this one of the original ideas of Satoshi?
Yeah. So scalability is indeed the challenge other blockchain projects have faced and not been able to overcome. It's a key focus of our mission with Bitcoin SV. It was one of the big differences in opinion between us and the Bitcoin ABC camp. We wanted to scale the Bitcoin blockchain much bigger and faster than they did. For example, Bitcoin SV got birthed with 128 megabyte block cap. Bitcoin ABC is still at 32 megabytes. Later this year, we want to go to 512 megabytes. There's this feeling from a lot of other people in the Bitcoin community, at the other Bitcoin projects, that it's not safe to scale that big. It's not possible to go that big. I mean, people for a time thought you couldn't actually have blocks on the Bitcoin blockchain above 22 megabytes, that you really couldn't do that. Well, we had stress tests, last November that already blew that theory out of the water, hitting 32 megabytes, over a succession of them. And then we had a 64 or 65 megabyte block, mined after that. And now we've seen a 103 megabyte block mined. We know that those need to be demonstrated on a sustained basis on the Bitcoin SV blockchain. So our focus is scaling. As I mentioned earlier, our development team's major focus this year is testnet work to demonstrate sustained big blocks, increasing the block size, the default block size in the Bitcoin SV protocol to 512 megabytes, doing LiveNet testing with public stress tests to prove we can get 100 megabyte and up blocks consistently on the live test network. And to answer a particular point of your question, no, of course it is not enough just to lift the block cap. And people make that mistake when they would hear what we would say in advocating for Bitcoin SV. We know you don't just raise the block cap to 128 megabytes or 512 megabytes and boom, the network goes faster and there's bigger blocks that are propagated. Well, we know that technical work has to be done to find solutions in software as well as some hardware solutions to make this more possible. So for example, one of the things that Steve Shatters and team have been really working on are software solutions and tools to make nodes more capable of handling bigger blocks and helping transactions in big blocks propagate better, faster, more efficiently. That's key. So it's a combination of things, not just any one thing. And we're not naive about that. We know that full well. Our team's working very hard on those things. But all of those things are important to the scaling roadmap. And yes, this is what was part of the Satoshi vision. Satoshi envisioned a long time ago a Bitcoin blockchain that on-chain, not off-chain, could handle transactions at a higher volume than the Visa network way back in 2009, using existing hardware. Satoshi envisioned a massive blockchain that could support enterprise-level applications, not just Bitcoin payments, but all kinds of other usages, including the tokens we talk about today. That could be done at a mass scale. And Craig Wright, in particular, envisions, as we've heard him speak about, the metanet one day, where the Bitcoin blockchain subsumes the internet, where internet-driven content, data, the activities we normally do on the internet, web surfing, website visiting, internet search, social media, can be done and powered through Bitcoin blockchain transactions, where a Bitcoin transaction contains the data to display a website, to transmit data that you might transmit over a social media channel, to communicate data that is your identity. All of that can be done through the Bitcoin blockchain, and one day it will subsume the internet in our view, and that requires massive scaling. That is the vision of creating the global data ledger of the future that unleashes a world of business possibilities for the world's major enterprises. That's the most excitement I've heard about in a long time. It's why I'm excited to work in the Bitcoin SV community and why I welcome businesses around the world to join us in the Satoshi vision.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. That's it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for watching. There will be more of Guarda Cryptocurrency Awareness Project coming soon. Stay tuned, subscribe to our channel and to our social networks to know the news first.